The United States announces a massive trade deal with Japan with tariff rates set at 15%. President Trump terms it as the largest trade deal in history, which will result in Japan investing $550 billion into the United States. Trump also announces trade deals with Philippines and Indonesia, setting 19% tariff rates. Meanwhile, third round of talks with China now scheduled for early next week. Asian markets open higher as US President Donald Trump announces trade deal with Japan and the Philippines, while Wall Street indices ended mixed in overnight trading session, with S&P 500 notching another record close. GIFT Nifty is indicating a positive start for the Indian market. Crude oil prices fall more than 1% as persistent uncertainty over trade negotiations fanned fears about the demand outlook. Gold retreats from 5-week high as investors book profit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to travel to the United Kingdom today. The much-awaited India-UK FTA is expected to be signed on Thursday. Sources say both nations have been in close touch since Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UK Prime Minister Starmer announced the deal. And in key earnings to track, Infosys is seen to report 3.2% dollar revenue growth on a quarterly basis. Meanwhile, Dr. Reddy's is expected to report a 6% rise in profit from a year ago. Also, watch out for numbers from Tata Consumer Products. The company is set to report 11.5% rise in revenue. Hello, good morning. You've tuned into Power Breakfast, coming live from CNBC TV 18 studios. I'm Vinny Motiwala. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. A look at what the Asian markets are doing. It's an interesting day coming in because the US and Japan, they have signed the trade deal coming in. We're seeing other Asian countries like Philippines, Indonesia, there also the trade deal is signed with the United States. And on the back of that, whether you're looking at the Hang Seng, that's managing to hold on to very strong gains. Taiwan Index managing to hold on to strong gains of 0.8% as well. Nikkei holding on to gains of 2.6%. That's the Japanese index, right? So that's buzzing away in trade as well. And the US-Japan trade deal, the tariff rate is at 15% now. ASX 200, the Australian index, managing to hold on to gains of almost 0.5%, and Shanghai managing to hold on to gains of 0.3%. Nifty implied open clearly indicating a positive start today coming in for the Indian markets, up almost 64 points as of now in a trade. So yes, we're going to be watching out for what is going to be happening in the Indian markets as well. Everyone's waiting out for those negotiations that could happen between the US and India as well. That will be key for our Indian markets. But as of now, Asian markets are buzzing because there are more trade deals that have taken place. Now, when you're looking at it in terms of the US market as well, it was a second day of record close that came in for S&P 500. But when you look at it, albeit marginally marking its 11th such close in 2025. Now, Dow Jones, meanwhile, that ended 0.4% higher. We're seeing that the Nasdaq witnessed cuts to close lower as all those tech stocks. That is something that weighed on the overall index. Now, this was the first negative day of a trade for Nasdaq in 7 sessions. So that is something that we'll be keeping an eye out on in terms of the US market. But how is all this going to be impacting our Indian markets? We have a team of research joining in with us to set us up for trade, important stocks to watch out for, as well as tell us what's going to be happening in the world of F&O. Gaurav as well as Sudarshan, good morning and thank you so much for joining in with us. But before I come to you all, I'm going to be setting you all up for trade, what we're watching out for. US markets are clearly highlighted, how they've closed in trade. We do have some bit of a mixed opening that's coming in the closing that's coming in the US market. So Nasdaq weighed down by the tech stocks, but trade deals has kept the Asian markets on the positive front. Now, when you're looking at it in terms of the FII and DIIs, we're seeing that FII sold around 3,500 crores in yesterday's trading session, while DIIs were buyers of 5,240 crores in yesterday's day. Now, important to watch out for today, we have 2 block deals that's coming in the real estate space. Oberoi Realty and Macrotech Developers, or Lodha Developers as we know it also. Keep an eye on that. 2 block deals expected here. One is Oberoi, another is Lodha. The next one, keep an eye out on important earnings today. So we have nifty earnings like Infosys, Dr. Reddy's, Tata Consumers that are reporting their numbers. And other than that, we have SRF, Coforge, Persistent, Syngene. All these will be reporting their numbers. So a lot of moves that we could be seeing coming in on these stocks on the back of the numbers. Important board meetings also. So these stocks could be in focus. IndusInd Bank, keep an eye out on that. Tilak Nagar Industries, that was buzzing in trade yesterday. We had a CNBC TV 18 exclusive that came in. Now today they are meeting to consider a fundraising plan. Aditya Birla Real Estate, also a fundraising plan is over there, as well as Borosil Renewables. All these are what we are keeping an eye out on. Now, overall, when you're looking at it, Nifty yesterday had closed a bit flat. So we'll watch out for in terms of, whether this gain that we're seeing coming in for Nifty implied open, if that's going to be sustaining in the market. But that's how the setup is looking like. As of now, implied open indicating a 69-point uptick. But Gaurav, which are the stocks that you are keeping an eye out on? A lot of earnings, a lot of news flow coming in as well.
Well, yes. Let me first highlight a few stocks which will be on our radar on the back of the earnings. So first, let's talk about Dixon Tech. Inline set of number, in fact, when we look at the net profit, that has increased almost by 68% on a year-on-year basis. Now it stands at around 225 crores. Other than that, JSW Infra also came up with good set of numbers. Profit increased almost by 31% on a year-on-year basis. And what remains a key thing is that the management said that they will be aiming to grow volumes by around 10% in FY26. Paytm actually came up with very good set of number. In fact, this was the first quarter when we saw operationally Paytm actually reporting profits. They reported profits of 122 crores versus the losses of 839 crores just a year ago in the same quarter. And EBITDA margin also, if you look at it, it is at around 3%. KEI Industries also came up with good set of numbers. In fact, profit was actually higher than what the street was expecting. It increased almost by 30% and now it stands at around 195 crores. United Breweries, on the other hand, actually reported profit which was a little lower than the street's expectation at around 184 crores, whereas the street was expecting number to remain at around 200 crores. Margins have also come down a little to around 10.8% on a sequential basis. Let's also not forget about Credit Access Grameen. Now, when we look at the numbers, they look down because the profit has gone down almost by 85%. It was in line with what the street is expecting, and what remains a key thing is that the credit cost has come down. So that is something which can push the stock today. Other than that, let's also watch out for Hyundai India because company has received GST demand worth 258 crores for non-payment of compensation cess. And there are two stocks which will be on our focus on the back of the source risk. First is Oberoi Realty because block deal is likely to happen here where some investors may sell around 3% of the equity at a price of 1,753 rupees. And second is Lodha Developers. This is also a candidate where block deal may happen. 1% of the equity is expected to change hand at around 1,384 rupees per share.
Okay, Gaurav, thank you so much for that. But finally, Sudarshan is here and waiting by to tell us what are we watching out for in the world of F&O. Good morning, Sudarshan. Yesterday was a muted day, but these trade deals coming in, are we expecting anything exciting in the world of F&O?
Good morning, Vinny. So we are back to a range-bound day of trade. Yesterday, we saw that Nifty manages to hold on to levels for 25,000, but after trading in a range that like from 24,900 to 25,100, finally it ended above 25,000. So now bad part is FIs continue to build positions on the short side. Now there is a positive part as well. If there are positive news related to earnings, if there is any, we might see a short covering and that will be very sharp. Now, GIFT Nifty for today is indicating a positive start, currently up around 60 points following the positive cues and all the trade deals that US President has announced. Now, talking about the flows, yesterday again we saw DIs buying and FIs selling. FIs have sold more than rupees 3,500 crore, DIs bought more than rupees 5,200 crore. But the interesting data is on the derivative side. Now, in the index futures, FIs have sold almost rupees 800 crore. They have reduced long positions of around 1,300 contracts and also they have added short positions of almost 3,000 contracts. Now, FI long exposure has reduced to almost 14%. So it indicates you that if there is a positive news flow in the Indian market, there can be a short covering and it will be very sharp. Now coming to the option side, 25,200 call was the most active one, but again 25,400 call has also seen addition, and here the addition was almost of 26 lakh shares. On the put side, 25,050 put was active, and after that 24,800 put has been very active. That's the reason support remains around 24,800 25,280. That is the day before yesterday's low, and resistance remains around 25,300 or slightly above that. That is 20-day moving average. Now, stocks in the focus, two stocks remain in the bank. Those are RBL Bank and Bandhan Bank. IEX has entered in the band yesterday, and also keep an eye on two stocks. Paytm. It has reported operationally positive. Its EBITDA has turned positive for the very first time. Stock has been at near to 52-week high, but it has seen a sharp recovery. It's up more than 100% from its recent low. And also another stock is M&M Finance. It has been trending lower in the last few sessions, but earnings are not that bad. So keep an eye on these two as well.
Okay, we'll keep an eye out on all the stocks and what are the levels to watch out for the Nifty as well. Thanks so much for that, Sudarshan. On that note, let's slip into a very short break, and after the break, we'll get you the updates from the White House in our special segment, Trump Watch. Stay tuned in for that. Welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Now, getting you those latest updates, and especially those Trump-related updates and developments that we have overnight. Dia is joining in with us in a special segment, Trump Watch. Dia, over to you.
The United States has agreed to a trade deal with Japan, which would see a 15% U.S. tariff on Japanese goods. The plan would result in Japan investing $550 billion into the U.S. and paying a 50% reciprocal tariff. Listen in.
We just signed the largest trade deal in history, I think maybe the largest deal in history, with Japan. And that was done with Japan. They had their top people here, and we worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that. But we're doing really well as a country. We're strong.
And Japan isn't the only country in focus. The White House also confirmed that Indonesia will ease export restrictions on critical minerals as part of a new trade deal with the U.S. Trump called it a huge win for American companies. Now, the deal also lowers a threatened U.S. tariff on Indonesian products from 32% down to 19%. The U.S. has also reached a trade pact with the Philippines. President Donald Trump said Tuesday, adding that the deal will see the U.S. tariff on goods from the Southeast Asian country lowered to 19%. And in a sharp escalation, Donald Trump on Tuesday accused his predecessor, Barack Obama, of treason and called for his prosecution over a report alleging that officials in the Democrats' administration manipulated information on Russia's interference in the 2016 elections. Listen in.
If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them, too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries.
Moving on, the U.S. announced it will officially withdraw from UNESCO, the United Nations Cultural and Education Agency. Now, the move, according to officials, comes in protest of what Washington describes as an anti-Israel bias and the promotion of divisive causes. And lastly, a new investor filing from SpaceX reveals Elon Musk may re-enter politics. Now, the tender offer notes that Musk, who previously served as a senior advisor to Trump, could take on similar roles again. That's all for today. Now back to you.
Okay, Dia, thank you so much for that. Those are the important updates coming in there. But do not forget, President Trump has also plans to impose tariffs on imported medicines to push drug companies to cut down on the prices. He adds that the companies will face problems if they do not agree. Listen in.
We're going to get the drug prices down, not 30 or 40%, which would be great, not 50 or 60. No, we're going to get them down 1,000%, 600%, 500%, 1,500%. Numbers that are not even thought to be achievable because I've used a certain talent that I have and convinced the drug companies that you have no choice. The drug companies were selling drugs, same company, in Europe and other places, based on what Europe told them to sell them at. And they said, let America pick up the difference, and I wouldn't let it happen.
And in the ongoing tussle between the White House and the Federal Reserve, Trump said that Jerome Powell will not be there much longer. Listen in.
I think he's done a bad job, but he's going to be out pretty soon anyway. In eight months, he'll be out. But I call him too late. He's too late all the time. He should have lowered interest rates many times. Europe lowered their rate 10 times. We lowered ours none. And it's causing a problem for people that want to buy a home. Look, our economy is so strong now, we're blowing through everything. We're setting records. You know that, you see that. And whether it's the Philippines or anyone else, we're setting records at levels that nobody's ever seen before. But you know what? People aren't able to buy a house because this guy is a numbskull. He keeps the rates too high.
While speaking to CNBC, the Federal Reserve's Vice Chair for Supervision, Michelle Bowman, spoke on the importance of maintaining independence with the monetary policy. Listen in to what she had to say.
It's very important, and I've said this a number of times in the past, that we maintain our independence with respect to monetary policy. I think that's very clear. But we also, as a part of that independence, have an obligation for transparency and accountability as well. But we also have an obligation, in my view, as we have throughout the time that I've been here on the board since 2018, to listen to a broad range of voices and to understand how others are viewing the economy and how that should influence our decisions in monetary policy making.
Meanwhile, the former Treasury Secretary and Fed Chair Janet Yellen talks about how market relies on the Federal Reserve's independence as well. Listen in.
Markets rely on the independence of the Fed and the Fed's commitment to achieving its congressionally mandated goals of price stability and maximum employment in assessing the soundness of the U.S. economy and their security in terms of returns they can expect investing in the United States. This is really disconcerting to markets, and what we've seen throughout history, both U.S. history and history around the world, is when that kind of pressure drives monetary policy in a country, high inflation is the inevitable consequence.
Okay, on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll get to what is happening in the world of commodities. Stay tuned in. Welcome back to Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Now, the Indian cabinet has approved a free trade agreement with UK, and that is set for signing on 24th of July in London. Parikshit is joining in with us to give us the details on this front. Good morning, Parikshit. That much-awaited deal that has come in and now the final signing. So what are we watching out for here now?
Well, Prime Minister Modi is set to leave for the UK today. He's going to be there in London tonight and tomorrow. He will be holding bilateral and delegation level talks with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He will be calling on King Charles III. The highlight of this visit would, of course, be the signing of the India-UK trade deal on the 24th of July. Now, this is a far-reaching agreement which will cover 99% of goods traded between both countries. UK's Scotch whisky, UK's cars would get easier access to the Indian market at a lower tariff regime, although there will be graded reduction in tariffs and there will be quotas over the years. Secondly, this is an FTA that will benefit India's labor-intensive sectors, especially textiles, gems, jewelry, engineering goods, chemicals, auto parts. They will benefit. Even services exports from India in the IT services, financial services, professional services, education, they are likely to benefit in a big way from the FTA. According to the Indian government, this FTA has been designed in a way to benefit Indian farmers, fishermen, workers, MSMEs, startups, and innovators as well. We must highlight that agriculture and dairy have been kept out of this FTA, and this FTA will now, in a way, be a precedent, be a template for India in other negotiations with the EU and also with the United States.
Okay, Parikshit, thank you so much for that. Important updates coming in here. We'll keep an eye out on more over there as well. But let's go across to Manisha, who is here to tell us what are we watching out for in the world of commodities this morning. Good morning, Manisha.
Morning, Vinny, and thank you for that. Well, I absolutely want to start with silver because that really is the biggest headline right now in commodities. In the international markets, we are trading at a 14-year high. For the Indian markets, we are trading at an all-time highs, above 1,15,000 rupees a kg. Well, with China Ministry pledging growth in auto, electric equipment has been supportive. We've also seen the gold prices gain quite strongly. And then you have the dollar index, which has seen a decline, including the U.S. Treasuries as well, which have continued to weaken. That has been supportive as well. Markets also looking at stronger industrial demand and then safe haven buying because you still have concerns on EU-U.S. trade deal. The U.S.-China meeting next week is something that the markets will keep in focus as well. But it's not just about silver. Almost everything in metals is trading on a higher note. We've seen 2 to 2.5% of gains in steel, in copper. The gold price has also gained up by a percentage point, and we are looking at multi-month highs continuing for many of the industrial commodities because of stronger Chinese data and China's pledge to support infrastructure projects. So metals clearly should be on your screens.
Okay, metals are something that we're watching out for. Metals not losing their sheen, and silver continues to shine. Thank you so much for that, Manisha. But that's all the time we have on this edition of Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Nifty implied open, indicating a positive start for the Indian market. Don't go anywhere. Your Bazaar Morning Call up next to take you through all those actions.